Hola todos, how we doing? Now, when we talk about the 4Ps, promotion may be last in the order that we're presenting them, but promotion, wow, there is an awful lot of things under the promotion P. As a matter of fact, most people think marketing is just the promotion P, because that is something that's very visible to most people thinking about marketing. Okay? There's so much going on in the promotion P, and I have 42 slides here in the promotion P, that I split this deck up into 2 different videos. Otherwise, it would be too long. So, now, even though we talk about the promotion P, a more modern, perhaps a more useful way of thinking about promotion is integrated marketing communications, which is IMC. Now, as no part of IMC is there a P. But in essence, in the 50s and in the 60s and in the 70s and in the 80s, the advertising function and the sales promotion function and the public relations function and the personal selling function and the direct and interactive, each one of these 5 functions were separate silos that didn't talk to each other, that didn't coordinate on message, and they all were jealous of the advertising executive because he or she had 90% of all the budget. Sometimes they didn't even think personal selling was part of promotion. And what happened was, when we got into the 90s, especially when we got into the aughts, advertising's effectiveness started to decrease. A lot of this had to do with people watching less television, or there being 500 channels and attention has been splintered, or people were doing different things like the internet or video games. But either way, finally, under one umbrella, IMC, there was coordination amongst these 5 vehicles to deliver more bang for the buck, more punch. That was a very, very quick history lesson that probably could have been a whole book, but trust me on this one. So IMC is a strategic approach to communicating the brand and the company message. It's strategic because there's coordination. It's clear. And the TV ads and the magazine's ads and the newspaper ads match what's happening in the sales promotion, what's happening in store, what's happening in digital. There's coordination, and with that, there's a more unified branding of the promo for a particular brand or a particular company. All right, when we're thinking about advertising in general, okay, and if you're the brand manager, you might need to think about a popular model that we use called the hierarchy of effects model. And if we think about buyers who pass through making a decision to buy something, we think about the first stage of cognition or cognitive, that's learning, affective, which is feeling or emotion, and finally behavioral, which is do. And we can think about creating advertising plans or using any of the 5 advertising IMC vehicles or silos, I don't like that word, but silos, to help sorry, I lost my train of thought. We can, at any of these stages, either at the learning stage or the feeling stage or the doing stage, we can create advertising campaigns for each one of these stages. Another popular model is the AIDA model, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. Well, it's awareness. I like to say attention, awareness. We think about awareness. There are a lot of products and services that people just don't know exists. So we can create advertising campaigns specifically around awareness. Hopefully, these campaigns generate interest. Because awareness, okay, they exist, but that doesn't mean you want to use them or not, or buy them or not. Hopefully, the awareness will drive interest. There's a little bit of persuasion there. The interest will get into, could move us towards desire. And earlier we talked about wants versus needs. Well, we could take a need and shift it to a specific want. Okay, I need to wear clothes, but it doesn't need to be this particular designer brand. We can do some advertising campaigns to create some kind of a want. And finally, we have action. Action is actual purchase or doing. And we, especially in the sales promotion side of IMC, that helps with action. Broadly speaking, when we talk about steps in an advertising campaign, we talk about them in terms of 7 steps. We will do STP probably in our next video, but we first target a specific audience. And once we know who we're targeting, we set our advertising objectives. What we want to accomplish with our advertising. What stage of the AIDA are we targeting? What would we like to do? We determine how much we want to spend. We create the message. We evaluate and select media. Because some messages and some segments, all media are not the same. And we're going to go through a couple slides on different types of media. We then create the advertisements, and then we measure impact. This is the ROI aspect, and if there's one thing marketers are correctly criticized for, that's for not being accountable for what they do. When we talk about advertising in general, we can create informational advertising for awareness. It helps build brand awareness. It helps build consumer buy-through for the buying cycle. We can create persuasive advertising, which we're really trying to get you to think about us versus someone else, also sometimes called comparative advertising. But information advertising, think about this as the awareness stage. Think about this as the desire stage. Think about reminder advertising, okay? We can do reminder advertising because we like to keep brands top of mind, especially in maturity of the product life cycle, especially when there's a zero-sum game, meaning the only way for us to gain more market share is to steal market share away from our competitors, which is like when there's a lot of competition. So we might do lots of reminder advertising. Think pizza, think colas, think things that we could have multiple different choices. Think fast food, lots of reminder advertising there. When we talk about evaluating and selecting media, okay, hold on, let me slide up a little bit for a second. Right? There is media planning as part of this stage, i.e. which types of vehicles, then the mix of those vehicles, and then finally the buying of the vehicles. There are some specialty agencies in Chicago and LA and in New York that do this exclusively without creating any creative. They're just doing the buying, the planning, and because it could be the case if you have a brand like General Motors that spends over $1 billion a year, okay, there's an awful lot of planning involved with spending $1 billion in both TV and promo and all kinds of various advertising vehicles. And it's not easy to buy $1 million worth of TV ads, $1 billion worth of TV ads. It takes time. It takes scheduling. It takes targeting. So there are specific agencies that do that. There are also some media buying that are within a larger creative agency. That's pretty common too. When we think about advertising, there could be institutional or there could be product focused. So product focused means it's about the product or it's about the brand. Institutional means it's about the company. So we'll see institutional ones maybe around Christmas. We'll see institutional ones saying, around the Olympics. They're trying to create, a feel-good, emotional appeal for the brand without trying to explicitly advertise one particular product. So we could be talking about Chevy without talking about Silverado pickup trucks. We could be talking about Budweiser without talking about various types of Bud. Bud Light versus normal Bud versus Michelob versus, we can go through the whole thing. So those are institutional type ads. When we determine budget, I already mentioned earlier that you need to think about spending a little bit more, because guess what? You're growing and you want to fuel that market share. If you're in decline, you might think about spending a little bit less because you're trying to, divest this product or, manage the expenses even more tightly. So where in the product life cycle you are helps think about where we have to look about our overall promotional objectives. We need to know where's the nature, the size of the market, how fast is it growing. We need to know our own market share vis-a-vis our competitors. These things help determine how much we're going to spend. Okay, now we are going to talk more about the USP, your unique selling proposition, when we do STP. But for now, good advertising has a USP because you don't have a whole lot of time in advertising. So if you don't have a whole lot of time, you need to do your 30-second elevator pitch. And you do yourself as a brand and your customers a favor, or for future customers, if you're clear. Brands that have a unique selling proposition, we already talked about branding a little bit, they are a mental shortcut in our head. But there are some brands that are not. I'm not sure what Volvo is anymore. I'm not sure what Saab is anymore. But I'm pretty comfortable with what BMW is, what Mini is, what Mercedes is. They have unique selling propositions. Lincoln is still trying to find out what exactly it is. Buick's still trying to find out what exactly it is and where it fits in the marketplace. Toyota does not. We have various types of appeals, in ads, just like we have institutional and product focus. We can have an emotional focus. We can have more informational or factual appeals. Okay? So, in the next video, I'm going to stop here because we need to talk about all the various vehicles that exist out there. And we start getting into a lot of details there. So I'm going to save that for video 2. Thanks.